Good evening, welcome. Today we are coming back to Torah Chavdalad. We mentioned the first, we had one shir. We talked about this Indian that there is a light that is above Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, and that's or Ein Sof, the light of Ein Sof, that is above all the Oilamus. It's above Tzilus, Bria, Yitzir, Asiya. It's above the realms of emanation, creation, formation, and manifestation, doing whatever you want to call it, Asiya, which are the source of the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama of a person. That's Kaviyachol, the light of Kadosh Baruch Hu himself, that has no beginning, has no end. And we also mentioned that even though the mind cannot possibly capture and have any kind of hasaga in this level, because per definition, if we can use this word, no pun intended, we understand things by defining them. We know that something is from here to here to here to here, so we know what it is. But if it has no end, has no beginning, there's, definition means we put a frame around it. Our mind put a frame around it. And we can only know things that are separate from one another. In order for anything to be separate, there has to be the end of the first thing and the beginning of the second thing. Because if one thing does not end, nothing else can exist. We spoke about this at great length in Torah 49, Torah test. So it is not humanly possible to grasp a notion that has no beginning, no end. We can perceive it through emunah, through faith. This we can do. But we cannot understand it. We cannot, because we cannot understand anything which is undifferentiated. So, however, nevertheless, it is an inborn quality in the seichel to chase and to get that level, that reason, that intellect, that knowledge, that the mind of man is created to run after it, to chase after it. This is the reason why you see people are constantly researching and you sort of like take a look at it and it's just like, what's the deal? What do you care about the light of the beginning and the light of the end and descending satellites, and what do you care? What does it make to you? The answer is nothing. It satisfies that impulse, the human impulse, to drive towards the infinite light, the infinite seichel, the infinite intellect, the infinite wisdom. Now, if you are a member of this world, in other words, you're not a member of Olam Haba that happens to come through in this world in order to work on him or herself, but to somebody who was this worldic person, this worldic creation, like most of the world is. Then that kind of quest, that kind of drive, gets, different kinds of aims, of goals. It can be art. It can be, actually, art is practically the highest, the most, the closest that people of this world get to something which is truly spiritual. It brings down something from the beyond. It is not something that can be explained. It's not something that can be defined. You can talk about it. I mean, if you watch a lecture in the British Museum, the British National Gallery, they can stand by some pictures of Holbein or Caravaggio or whoever, and give you a whole schmooze of half an hour, three-quarters an hour about the artist and the life and the thing that was behind this picture and what people said, what people didn't say, whatever it is. But the whole thing doesn't amount to a hill of beans. At the beginning, at the end, there's the picture, and the picture brings in or energy. It brings a transmission of spirituality, that being that it is brought through this worldly artists. In other words, artists that are not here to work on themselves, but artists that this world for them is all there is. And so what happens is that the heavenly, the godly message comes down without being filtered through the filter of morality. In fact, people, especially artists, like to feel that they are beyond morality, that morality should not apply to them. And that's probably one of the reasons that everybody and his uncle want to be considered artists, and whatever that they do could be considered art, because once you're an artist, you're the big kahuna, you're the high priest of this religion called art. But that's about the highest that they get. But nevertheless, it's still just a picture, and you can look at it for hours, definitely, because great artists are great conduits, great mediums for whatever it is that passes through them. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change them. It doesn't change the world. Doesn't make them better people. So, that speech and the theories that they come, and this is classical art, and this is expressionist art, and this is surrealist art, and this is cubism, and this is deconstructionism, this is, this is abstract, this is expressionist art, this is figurative abstract, whatever. All these are just sort of like names that people want to give, to make believe that they have a certain grasp on it, but they don't. They don't understand anything. There's nothing to understand. It's just a picture. Either it does it or it doesn't do it. But nevertheless, when somebody comes and says, listen, I want to make a research about the life of, I want to search whether there are bugs on Mars, they'll get a lot of money in order to do that. I want to make a research about bugs coming from Mars and staying on Earth to see if there are any traces. What does it make? It doesn't matter. You'll get a lot of money to do that. Why? Because it answers that primordial need, human need, to reach for the infinite wisdom, to reach for Hashem. So he says the only way that a person can actually, if he works on himself, can get a notion of that infinite light is you can get it with chinas, what we call mate, velo mate. You get it and you don't get it. Like you're going in and out. It's the closest thing that you can probably test for yourself in to understand what it means is if you try to meditate. In your meditation, you try not to think, to stop your thinking process. So what would happen is that you'll be able to do it for, a few milliseconds. And immediately afterwards, you will say like, hey, check this out, I'm not thinking, which of course is a thought. In other words, you go into it and it throws you out. This is a shtickle of a muscle for mati velo mati. You get it and you don't get it. But really, you can actually get it because it's beyond, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. These are the three levels of the human spirit, of the human soul, which in themselves are kelim and faculties to contain, asagas of godliness. And we get to Sif base. You should know that it's not possible to grasp that light, even in like getting and not getting it kind of fashion. Ela aladei asiyas mitzvahs b'simcha, by performing the mitzvahs, the commandment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with joy. And now, and for the rest of this particular teaching, we will say what kind of actions a person puts, what kind of things a person put into action by what a person is affecting by performing the commandments, mitzvahs, with joy. Until we'll explain in paragraph 8, by paragraph 2, we'll say how come this actually enables him to have a grasp on the infinite light, b'fchinas mate velo mate. He says, simchas mitzvah nishlam kedusha, because it is through doing the mitzvah with joy that the kedusha gets perfected, it gets completed. And what it does, it elevates the life force and the holiness that are entrapped inside the klipot. So, Mimela, we understand. What does it mean that the kedusha is completed, that is perfected? It means that the tumah, the defilement, cannot suck from it anymore. It's totally separated from defilement, and it belongs totally to the holiness. And this is personified in the 11 ingredients of the incense that was being makter in the Mishkan Beis Hamikdash. And this is something that you do every day when you say the korbanos and the ketores. When you in the morning and in the afternoon. This is a very, very important and good opportunity to illuminate that particular inyan, that davening in the morning and in the afternoon does not start, in the morning does not start from Hodu. And in the afternoon, it does not start from Ashrei. It starts from Korbanos. We have to understand that every part of the prayer in the morning, being that the prayer in the morning is the one that brings down the bulk of the moichin, of the mental faculties. So it includes a journey, an ascension from Olam Asiyah, the world of doing, which is this world, which is represented by the Maisa Korbanos, the Maisa of all the sacrifices and the offerings of Beis HaMikdash. And then we say a Kaddish. Kaddish is the transfer between one world and the next. And when we get to the Olam of Yetzirah, of formation, in the world of formation, what we do, we clean that place from the Kalipos. This is Sukkah de Zimra. Zimra means chopping, means cutting off. So it's Zmir Aritzim, that you're cutting off the Tumah from the Kedusha that is coming up. And this is the end. You're already in Olam Yitzira. This is the world of the angels. This is the place when you're finishing that you cannot say, you can say Amen, but you cannot say Baruch Shema anymore. Then you get to Ishtabach. When you get to Ishtabach, that's the end. You go through the 15, Shvochim of Ishtabach. That is very, very, a person has to be very careful not to stop in the middle. And when you're done with that, then you go with another Kaddish. You finish with the Olam of the formation, and you go with Baruch Hu. Then this is the first bowing, because now you're entering into the realm of the chariot, the realm of the throne. This is Olam Abriya, the world of creation. There's the Olam of Kisa Kovod, the throne of Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is the world of the Srafim and the archangels. And this is the place where you get to say Kriyat Shema. The Kriyat Shema, this is when you actually get the mental faculties, the chokhmah, the wisdom of the day into you. And then you go from there without any hefsek, without any kaddish. You're going into the realm of Atzilus, of emanation. Is the world that nothing but Kedusha exists. This is the tefillah that we daven without any sound. Every person by himself speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person is on a level of spiritual development, the appropriate spiritual, it comes in, one step at a time. First of all, you have to make sure that you fight off all the extraneous thoughts and distractions. That's level number one. And then you have level number two, where you don't even hear people, distractions around you. And in fact, the world around you stops to exist. And there's only you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to one another. And then there is the third level, which is what we actually are looking for when we're in the realm of Atzilus, when there's nothing but godliness, is that not only are you not aware of the world around you, but you are no longer even aware of yourself. There's only Kadosh Baruch Hu alone. This is the level of Atzilus. When you finish with Atzilus, you have gotten to the highest rung, and you finish your davening, you step back, you bow, to the left and to the right, so we should say the right of the Shekhinah, the left of the Shekhinah, and then you say Tachnun. In Tachnun, what happens is that being that you have reached such a very, very, very high madrega through the Olam Atzilus, the higher you reach, the lower you can go and get out, the klipos from, the kedusha, the holiness, the sparks of holiness that fell down into the realm of defilement. This is the sod of Nefilas Apayim. There's always say the 13 Midas Shalachamim. So and so on. It says, but the thing that is actually the means of in Beis Hamikdash, that we see that in the very beginning of the tefillah, during the korbanos, and at the very end, before we say Aleinu, we say, in Kavel Hashem, there's one section that will repeat the 11 ingredients of the incense once again. Because it is these 11 ingredients of the incense who are in charge of elevating, of being like the magnet that pulls up the kedusha, the remnants of kedusha from inside, all the way deep from inside of the realm of the tumah. So these are the 11, because we know that there's never an 11th element in anything that is shaykh to kedusha. There are only 10 sefirot. He says you don't count 9, you don't count 11, you count 10. So the 11th is, of course, we know there's one of the ingredients of the incense, which is the chalbana, which is actually something that smells really bad when it's burnt. But it has to be there because this is your conduit to get into the realm of defilement. You have the 10, those elements that smell good, and one that smells bad, and that's the thing that allows you to go all the way into the tumah and elevate the kedusha that is hidden there, that is shown there. And the fact that there are 11 and not 10, that in itself is the indication that it has a shaykhus, it has a relationship with the level of tumah. Because any extra is actually taken off. Whenever there is too much, we spoke about it also in Torah Memtes. When there is too much, it does not enable the normal process to proceed. If a person has, let's say, the emotional faculties to handle wealth, okay? So he can have wealth and he can handle it properly. He can deal with it. He can understand that the money is not his, and it was given to him for safekeeping. And he's supposed to do mitzvahs and chesed and charity and kindness with his money. What happens if you give this abundance of money to somebody that does not have the faculties, the emotional faculties, psychological faculties, whatever, to handle money? he goes berserk. He goes crazy. If it's somebody that has never worked for the money, he just wins the lottery. So that's not much of a problem. Either he dies or he basically loses his money, within a very, very short period of time and actually remains, in debt. But even people who work for the money, there's usually people who are into greed. Greed is their thing. They go nuts. They go nuts because the ability to, to contain, to handle excess is a very rare ability, because excess in itself, per definition, is the union of tuma, of defilement. What does a billionaire need $1 billion? You need a certain amount of money to live, and then a certain amount of money, to be comfortable. And anything beyond that doesn't make any difference. Excess is the siman and the sign and the symbol of defilement. So this is through the burning of the incense and the mentioning it in Shachris, that we elevate, the kedusha from the klipot, from the husks, from the tumah. The klipos, what they are, is excess. In itself is an excess, because anything in its proper amount is good. It's only when there is more than necessary, then it becomes tumah. And what they represent demoralization, depression, and sadness. The klipas are the source of sadness, of depression. Basically, depression is the result. I mean, people take all kinds of pills, whatever it is. I should work for them, especially when you have clinical problems. But lemaisa, depression is the result of a lack of purpose. If a person doesn't have a reason to get up in the morning, he may get up in the morning because the sun is shining or whatever it is. But he will feel depressed, because a person needs a purpose. When you go to sleep and you are saying, I have to get to this place and do this and do that and accomplish this and accomplish that, and have to do this at 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll have absolutely no problem in waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're up and running. No problem whatsoever. The problem of getting up in the morning, of waking up and getting out of bed, is when you have no reason to get out of bed, which means that you're getting life force, you're getting kedusha, but it is all excess. It is not harnessed to any reason, holy or otherwise. The result is depression. Klipas are the quintessential definition of excess. So Yimela, they're also the source of all depression. And this in it says b'chol etzev yeh moiser. In every sadness, there will be excess. This is what the pasuk says. Let's see, this is, Rashi says, actually what Rashi says is that in every excess yemoiser, meaning that the whole etzev, which is in every work that you will do, yemoiser, there will be something left. You'll have some profit left over. This is a remez that the klipas are tokba the dina. They are the actual, the hardcore of judgments. V'chinas, it says when Kodesh Baruch Hu says, but Am Yisrael, when people, when the world was created, it says v'satzev v'liboi, and sadness has entered the Kodesh Baruch Hu's heart, as it were, because of the sins of the people. That got an overriding of the kelipot, of the husks of the tumah, that brought about sadness for the Shekhinah. And the main simcha, the residence of the simcha, which is the opposite of tumah, is in the heart. You have put simcha where? In my heart. Now the Golos HaShechina, the exile of the divine providence of the Shechina, Shu B'chinas Lev, the Shechina is the heart. The Golos HaShechina, the heart, the Simchas Yisrael, the Simcha of Israel, is the Golos HaShechina. Ikar Galuso, its main exile, She'atzvus, She'maklipas Gomrim Aleim. When depression and sadness is the klipas, they overcome it. V'chinas misatzev liboi, and the sadness reaches the heart. When the sadness, which is the kelipot, which is the tumah, they're overcoming the shechina, which is the heart. However, when Am Yisrael will come out of exile, when they'll be redeemed, you know how you'll get out of the galus? B'simcha, through in joy. Because the klipas, which are the essence of atzvus, of sadness, they'll be canceled out. That's the reason why that's why when you are taking out the life force from the kelipot through the recitation of the 11 ingredients of the Ketores, of the incense, it says about it, Ketores Yisamach Lev. It's something that makes whoever it is, that makes him happy. Because the Ketores, what it does, it severs the suction of the eating of the klipos, which is the sadness from the Shechina, and what is left behind is simcha. So nimtzak she'oisa mitzvahs b'simcha, when you do the mitzvah b'simcha, azay maleh Shechina, what you do is you elevate the Shechina, which is the mitzvah, because the kedusha of the Shechina is embedded in the holiness of the commandments. She's simchas halev, that's the gladness of the heart. It gets it out from between amongst the klipos. Zeh b'chinas malchus de'asiyah. This is when the malchus of the level of asiyah, the world of asiyah, comes up from the klipos. We're not going to continue with the text now, but what we're actually going to, emphasize before we finish is davening starts from I'm accepting upon myself the mitzvah of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, which is before Odin Olam, master of the world. That's the first liturgy, if you can call it that way, of Shachris. And then you go through the Akedah. And with the Akedah, Baruch Hashem, Zat Hashem, you assure yourself safety for the entire day. Then you go through, realizing how fortunate you are to be a Jew, to be created a Jew, or becoming a Jew, whichever way you got to it. And then you say Shema Yisrael. That particular Shema Yisrael is only the first. It's only the first pasha of Shema Yisrael, and you're mechavan not to be yotzeh Krishma, unless of course you're going to lose Tzman Krishma, not to be yotzeh Krishma. And it has a tremendous inyan, because as Rabbeinu says, that in Torah Samechei, that 65, that the idea is to make one from the entire tefillah. It's not that, okay, I said the word, I finished it, I already finished this section, I finished this section, I finished, okay, I'm done, I can go home. That's not what it's about. Every single word that you say for HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a connection between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an expression of infinite love and oneness between you and Hashem. The thing is, but every single word is separate. So, and you have to go every single word. That Rabbeinu says that whenever you say it, every word of the davening, that word is so filled with love and so filled with connection between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu that it hugs you and doesn't let you go on. It says, please stay with me, don't leave me. You see the kind of love that exists between us. He says, I know that you have to go on because you have to collect more words and more flowers and more tremendous gems along the way. But because of our love, do me a favor, that wherever it is that you go, as far ahead as you go, don't forget me. You have to make one out of the entire tefillah from the very beginning to the very end. That's why we said the Shema Yisrael in the very beginning, at the end of Aleinu Shabeach, Bayom Hashem Echad Shmo Echad. You start with Echad, you end with Echad. The whole tefillah should be one. And then you go through the korbanos. You're cleaning Olam Asiyah. So if you can't start from Odin Olam, you must start from korbanos at least. That's the beginning of the tefillah. There's no such thing as starting from Hodim. If we only had this shir for just to mention this particular nekuda, davening starts in the very beginning and it ends at the very end. Shane's Baruch that should help us, first of all, to daven the entire tefillah from beginning to end, and say all the korbanos properly, all the k'teres properly, and mean everything that we're saying B'ezrat Hashem. And B'ezrat Hashem, to Geula Shleima, a total deliverance, B'nei Beis Hamikdash Mirabi Yameinu B'ezrat Hashem. Soon in our days, Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we have also sure in Zoom from Besavis Medrash. We are learning term and tests, I believe. So until then, hopefully we'll see